From another time comes a man of great power.
Because you were born different, men will fear you. You cannot die, MacLeod.
I am Conor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod, and I am immortal.
A hero who is about to face his greatest challenge.
In the end, there can be only one.
That, of course, is from Highlander, one of the best-worst films of the 1980s. This is a scene from the interview portion of the 1994 USA Beauty Pageant. I shall play the part of Bob Cohen, the host of the pageant, and a lovely stranger met on the street will play Miss Alabama, USA, 1994. Our interview portion of the competition continues now, and we talk to Miss Alabama. Miss Alabama, if you could live forever, would you? And why?
I would not live forever, because we should not live forever. Because if we were supposed to live forever, then we would live forever. But we cannot live forever, which is why I would not live forever.
Miss Alabama, everybody. Now, if you Google Miss Alabama USA 1994 and live forever, you'll find a lot of ridicule. Quotes like, "The 3-year-old daughter I babysit for could have given a more intelligible and well-thought-out answer." And, "LOL, what a dumb blonde." I totally disagree. The answer she gave was not dumb at all. It was actually the beautiful articulation of a rational mind trying to politely answer a totally irrational question. Unless you're Conor MacLeod, we can't survive death. Yet our conscious mind doesn't know what it means not to exist. It's called meaning threat. Try it. Answer the question for yourself. Would you live forever?
Well, obviously, I hope so. We'll see. It's one of my very first priorities. My general feeling is that if you can live the next 25 years, you're golden. Because in the next 25 years, the technologies to live indefinitely will probably apply to everyone, at least to the developed countries. And hopefully within 30 years, all the developing countries will also have all these technologies. So we'll all be able to live indefinitely.
Well, how about that? Turns out technology may be the key that unlocks immortality. That was Zoltan Istvan, the 2016 United States presidential candidate representing the Transhumanist Party. He was gracious enough to invite me on the campaign trail on his Immortality Bus. Do you want to live forever? In this episode, we chat with futurists and scientists to see if living longer, if not forever, is actually possible. Please join me as we go on the road for episode 3 of the Adventures of Memento Mori, the Science of Immortality.
From the Maida Creative Company, this is the Adventures of Memento Mori, a seeker's guide for learning to live by remembering to die. The podcast that explores mortality. Here's your host, D.S. Moss.
Every day, 200,000 people die worldwide. There are 2 deaths every second. 6 people just died. Make that 8. 10. Good morning. Have a nice day. My point for bringing that up is because none of us get out of this thing alive. All of us are going to die, and none of us know when. It's the great human equalizer. And since the dawn of our existence, us humans have been trying to cheat it. Religions, elixirs, fountains of youth, spells, and pills, all with the promise of outliving the end.
Did you know, in an attempt to stop aging, the Hungarian Countess, Erzsébet Bathory, bathed in the blood of murdered virgins?
We've drank pure llama urine, eaten mummies, and transferred young blood into old bodies. Nothing has worked. Yet.
Our ultimate goal is to extend healthy, productive longevity by discovering interventions that work on population level and in individual humans. Drugs are essentially the first frontier.
But what about treating aging as a disease and using pharmaceuticals to cure it? That's actually not a new concept. In 1854, Leopold Turk, a French doctor, classified old age as an illness and tried to cure it with electroshock therapy. But now there's a new crusade, and it has billions of venture capitalist dollars behind it.
That's kind of a comical scenario in a way. What we did with our investor.
That's Alex Zavarankoff, CEO of In Silico Medicine. I first learned of Alex from an article I read about a longevity bet he made with an investor of his company.
He basically asked me, okay, Alex, so how long are you planning to live? And it turned out that I didn't have any specific timeline. I thought that it would be a very continuous process without a specific objective. And he said, okay, well, we need to set goals. And I said, well, my goal is 150, just because it's very achievable.
150 meaning his age goal. That's how long he plans to live.
He said, oh, well, Alex, you know what? You're taking all those supplements and drugs. Maybe I should also tailor a regimen for myself. And he actually also designed a routine for himself and then decided to make a bet with me. So essentially, who would live longer?
Yep, there's a new intersection of technology and biology, and it's being ushered in by Silicon Valley. Google has Calico, a side company that is trying to reverse engineer aging. Larry Ellison of Oracle and Peter Thiel of PayPal are also among the heavy hitters to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in the longevity sector.
This is humanity's greatest challenge at the moment, and also the greatest opportunity. Our goal is to essentially transform the pharmaceutical industry and develop very rapid prototyping scenarios for large pharmaceutical companies to be able to test the drugs without testing them on large human populations. The core of our engine is aging research. So we are very focused on looking at various aging pathways.
Hopefully I'm not being too reductive here, but In Silico uses a software platform with huge databases of human norms to map out a virtual human genome, kind of like a solar system. And then it tests drugs against that virtual human to prevent diseases and even repair age-associated damage. The idea is taking drugs before you're actually sick. Or, really, it's considering aging as a sickness and then taking drugs to cure it. But now we're talking about dependency on big pharma. And as capitalists, there's always going to be the haves and the have-nots. I asked Alex about this, and he brought up an interesting point. It's in the government's best interest to pay, because at the current rate of aging, Medicare and Medicaid will bankrupt the country within the next 20 years.
Those $17 trillion that everybody is talking about in terms of national debt, it's nothing compared to, it could be $300, $400 trillion owed to the population of the United States. If lifespans even increase slightly to, let's say, 85, those are the numbers. And it makes a lot of economic sense to maintain the population in a healthy state for as long as possible, even if those lifespans are not extraordinary. Let's say it's 150 years. I don't consider it to be extraordinary or dramatic. That would still be very profitable for the governments to keep people in their healthy state.
Alex wouldn't tell me the drug stack he was on, but I asked him what else I could do to improve my longevity range. For instance, is there an exercise or diet routine that I should be on?
Well, again, exercise and diet will not cure aging and will not have a very significant effect on longevity. I mean, it depends on what you call significant. You may get 10, 15, 20% increase, but it's very unlikely that you would be able to really squeeze more lifespan out of diet and exercise.
Okay, but 20% of 80 isn't bad. But what else?
Right, so I would recommend first adjusting your longevity expectations. Instead of looking at family history and country averages when planning for your own longevity, I would set my longevity expectations much further than the current 85 or even 90 years of age that many people expect. I would pin it to 150 or even further.
Got it. Set a new life horizon.
So by doing that, you will stretch your longevity expectations and you will change your behavioral patterns. So you're going to be most likely to go back to school, to maintain and update your skill set, to behave as a younger person. So the longer horizon you see in front of you, the more time you have to really improve yourself.
All right, Alex, I'm down with that. In episode 1, I told life coach Devin Martin that I expect to live until I'm 85. So I take that back. I'm setting a new life horizon. My goal now is to live until I'm 120.
Hello, fellow provocateurs who believe death is a topic worth talking about. We need your help spreading the word. Be the slightly odd yet endlessly fascinating conversationalist at your next party and tell your friends about the Adventures of Memento Mori. Want to stay in the loop? Join our inner circle by going to our site, theadventuresofmementomori.com, and be sure to stay up to date with the quest for enlightenment on YouTube by following our channel, The Adventures of Memento Mori podcast. And now, back to the show.
Did you know? In the 1960s, a popular Hollywood trend was to take booster shots of fetal lamb cells to stay young.
Did you know there are regenerating creams made with human baby foreskin fibroblasts currently on the market?
Pretty crazy, right? I have one more for you. Did you know women who've undergone surgical stem cell facelifts have had tiny bones growing in their faces? Yep. Anyway, a few weeks ago, I went down to our nation's capital to conduct my first interview with a presidential candidate. The following conversation happened in the parking lot of the Pentagon Best Western, inside a bus shaped like a coffin.
So can I just ask you a question?
Yeah, that's Rowan Horn, an avid eternal life activist. Also on the bus is independent journalist Alex Perlman, Chris, Ben, and Zoltan.
Do you want to live forever if you could?
I would want to live forever in a meaningful way. Absolutely.
Nice answer, we think, on this bus.
Yeah.
What do you mean by live forever in a meaningful way?
That's a good answer.
Just the sense that I think if you have like an unlimited ticket, you may take things for granted. I think having an expiration date makes it worth something, right? Whether it be prolonging it another 80 years or 100 years or forever, there's just got to be some value to that, right? That's a philosophical question. I don't know if that's self-imposed value, but I think there's benefit to having a stamp ticket. Rowan then proceeded to ask Chris and Ben the same question. But before we hear the conversation, I want to share an interesting statistic. The overwhelming majority of people under the age of 35 say they want to live forever. And the overwhelming majority of the people over 35 say they don't. I just find that to be terribly interesting.
I don't think I would want to live forever just because I'm a procrastinator. And like you were saying before about like doing something meaningful, like, and the idea of an expiration date,
I waited
like
10,000 years before I did something.
Right, exactly. Like you could sit on your couch for like a month, and that's like a blip in eternity. Like I need to have a deadline.
How much Beavis and Butthead can you watch?
Right.
I've watched everything on Netflix. Now what? Like, yeah.
What's so bad about having spare time and having more time to just have fun?
Well, spare time's only spare if you have a limited amount, isn't it?
Perfect.
Otherwise, you have endless time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all spare. So, yeah, I'd like the idea of having spare time as opposed to endless time.
So, my answer to this complex question, which I get asked a lot, is how can you keep from becoming totally bored through eternity?
And that's Zoltan Istvan, the presidential candidate.
But one of the great things about technology is that it's always evolving. So we're looking at this question from our brains right now, which is 3 pounds of meat. But probably in 20, 30 years, we're going to start augmenting that intelligence with some type of, cranial implants or artificial intelligence or some type of technology, meaning our IQ levels could double, triple, become 1,000,000 times more than they are now.
Soon after this, Alex, Chris, and Ben said their goodbyes and ended their trip on the Immortality Bus.
Hi, my name is Zoltan Istvan, and I'm the 2016 U.S. presidential candidate of the Transhumanist Party, and I am going to be driving a 40-foot coffin bus across America promoting transhumanism and life extension. It's something that's going to work. It's something that's going to wake up America and get people thinking that perhaps we don't have to die. Perhaps we can use science and technology to overcome our biological mortality. The Immortality Bus is a wild idea to traverse the United States, hopefully getting people to think about using science and technology to overcome aging, to overcome death, and to embrace transhumanism. We're going to have campaign drones, we're going to have a robot, we're going to have virtual reality gear on board, we're going to hopefully have a biohacking lab on board. I mean, it's going to be crazy fun stuff. Please support the Immortality Bus, please support my campaign, and let's hope this 40-foot coffin bus can turn into a big success and really get people thinking about how we can use science and technology better in our lives.
So who are you?
My name is Zoltan Istvan. I'm a 2016 U.S. presidential candidate. I am running for the Transhumanist Party, which is a small and new political organization that seeks to put science, technology, and health at the forefront of American politics. Transhumanists are people who want to use science and technology to radically modify the human experience and radically modify the human body. And our number one goal is generally using science and technology to overcome death, to make it so that we can live indefinitely and control the moment when we would die, if we have to die at all. Many transhumanists would like to live forever.
And so, in what ways can science, in today's methods of scientific technology, what paths are going to take us to that?
Well,
that exist currently.
There's a number of paths that will allow us to potentially live indefinitely. I think perhaps the number one path is this idea that you might be able to stop or even reverse aging. One way would be through genetic editing of DNA, and you could literally stop the aging process through cutting off certain parts of your DNA that actually make it that you age. But there are other...
So treating age as a disease.
Yes. No, this is one of the number one things in my presidential campaign is to classify aging as a disease, and for people to understand that the body is a machine, and that machine, just like a car, can be fixed, can be modified, can be made into many different things, and it can certainly be made into an entity that never has to cease its existence.
So I was at a party recently, and I just made a point to say that, or just in conversation, we think of evolution, we think of Darwinism as like chimp or primate to this state, and that is evolution. And then I made a sort of a comma, but what if that primate to what we are now is just actually the very sliver of our human evolution, and that we're evolving to something that we can't even comprehend? But that is kind of what you're saying, right? Is that we are at the beginning stages, essentially, of human evolution.
So you have to understand, I begin every one of my speeches with a single slide. It shows the cosmos, and it says the universe is 13.8 billion years old. Now just think about that for a second. The planet itself is about 4 or 5 billion years. Life itself is 1 billion years old. The human species, as it is now, about 150,000 years old. We are babies in terms of how old the universe is. And we can grow to so much more. We can grow to super intelligences that maybe are just pure quantum energy just flowing around the universe.
And so talk to me now about, describe the bus we're on. We're on the Immortality Bus. Talk about things that you encountered on your journey so far.
So the Immortality Bus, of course, shaped like a giant 40-foot coffin, is really supposed to be a provocative symbol that travels across the country, obviously highlighting my presidential campaign, but not really only about my presidential campaign, really about the fact that I'm trying to tell people that we're trying to support science and technology to overcome death. For us, telling people about it is very important because we feel, and especially since I'm a presidential candidate, that the United States government spends a huge amount of money on warfare, spends about 20% of the GDP on defense, on making bombs, and only 2% on science. And we thought, wow, that's a crazy discrepancy. The balance needs to be better. Why not make less bombs and make more science? Why not, instead of having a war in the Middle East, have a war on cancer, or a war on aging, or a war on Alzheimer's?
That is a crazy discrepancy. But it also raises the question, is science the government's responsibility? Or should science be primarily the responsibility of the private sector? Back with more talk of death and politics in just a sec.
Do you consider yourself to be a fellow seeker? Do you believe there's something more to being human than what's available in the illusory cocoon of our material world? Or perhaps you're thinking of starting an existential scavenger hunt and would like a guidebook to help chart your path? If yes, you're in luck. Go to theadventuresofmementomori.com and sign up to receive D.S. Moss's upcoming book, Something to Believe in, a seeker's guide to finding your big belief. Sign up today and start your journey.
We're back on the Immortality Bus talking with Zoltan Istvan about living forever and running for president. What's the most common / most significant counter argument to the Transhumanist Party that you generally hear when you're on campaigning or just generally?
Well, the most common one that I hear, well, there's two of them, so let me speak briefly about both. The most common one I hear is that the elite, the really rich people, will take the technology and run with it and make the rest of us, 99% of us, live in some dystopic universe where only the rich become gods and everyone else is sort of their slave. Well, so far, most of the new billionaires have been very democratic and I think very humanitarian at the core. So I think the most important thing I hear other than that is this problem that if everyone lives forever, we're going to have overpopulation and we're going to have it very quick. Now, this is a very real argument, and this is something that I deal with all the time, trying to say, wow, it's true. We live on an overpopulated planet. The overpopulation has caused already numerous amounts of environmental crises, around the world. It's terrible. I believe in global warming. I believe we're screwing up the planet. So what can we do? Maybe we can fix the ozone layer by refilling it with something. Or maybe we can overcome cancer so we don't even need to worry if the ozone layer becomes depleted. Maybe with meatless meat, we might be able to completely restore forests because we don't need cattle grazing all over the place and to clear-cut trees. So these are ways that transhumanists would try to offset some of the environmental damage that overpopulation is causing.
So talk to me about the process of running, the process of being taken seriously. Will you ever, for instance, get invited to a debate?
So this has been one of the most difficult times in my life because as someone who I think is qualified to be president in terms of, I think I can handle the country. I have the right education, have perhaps the right family life. I look normal for the cameras, all this other stuff, and can debate as well as many of the other candidates. As a third-party candidate, it's absolutely impossible to win. It's absolutely impossible to dent the system. It's because the system is, in America, for running for the presidency and for running for many other forms of office, is totally, it's totally lame, to be honest with you. It absolutely needs to be changed. There's no way a third-party candidate is ever going to win the presidential election in America. Maybe if you spent $10 billion, you would. When they say anyone can run for the presidency in America, it's a lie. Anyone can run, but no one can be taken seriously. Now, luckily, because I write a number of international columns and I've worked for National Geographic and New York Times, I have a bit of a platform for talking my ideas.
What would you say to I know that there is a large number of people that view this, of even designer babies, of playing God. Even genetically modifying food is playing God. What would you say? What would you do to calm those or to counter that in just an irrational way of living on planet Earth?
So, I'll try not to be aggressive with my statement because when I hear Mother Nature and I hear the word natural, it's the word natural that bothers transhumanists more than anything. Everyone says, well, becoming a machine is unnatural. Well, what does natural mean? What does that word even entail? There's nothing natural on planet Earth. We are all in a state of flux. We're all in a state of evolution. Becoming a machine is not any more natural or less natural than a primate becoming a human being. There's nothing in the world about genetically modifying food or human beings or having artificial hearts versus biological hearts that is natural or not unnatural. This is just simply the way evolution and the way the movement of the universe is taking us. And so I would say to everyone, embrace science, whether you're religious or conservative, whether you're liberal or not, it's not important. Living better through science and technology means more happiness. And I think everyone can agree that that's a good thing.
Do you think that if the more advanced we get, the less romantic we get as far as like the human spirit?
So I think one of the most important things of understanding when we discuss these things is that we're looking at it through the lens of being a human being right now, but that lens is stuck in 2015. In the future, when we look at these lenses, it might be stuck at 2035 or wherever we're at. And that might mean I have 18 cranial implants that are augmenting intelligence from some machine or around the world and giving me new sense of romanticism. Romanticism, after all, is a biological component. I mean, it can be modified. It can be manipulated to become even grander through a new type of brain that might have a lot of augmentation. Maybe it'll be even a greater sense. Maybe love as we know it will seem naive to us because there'll be a new sense of love that is 1,000 times stronger and more passionate than it is. I always tell people that the human being is made up of 5 senses. But that doesn't mean that there's only 5 senses that exist to a superintelligence. There could be 1,000 senses. Biohackers are already experimenting with other different types of senses. They put magnets in their fingers, so wherever they walk, they feel magnets, like Magneto and X-Men and stuff like that. The idea of sensual, information coming to us, this idea that we are stuck with the 3 pounds of meat we carry around is just something temporary. Over the next 50 years, we're going to expand that considerably. And as we do so, this idea of getting bored of Earth, or this idea of a ticket to death, could change dramatically. This ticket being something that makes life valuable because we know it's going to end. Well, what if we know it's not necessarily going to end, but the creativity is going to expand by 1,000,000 times of our thoughts? Well, that seems much more compelling in creating a romanticized version of life, because adventure, after all, is one of the core senses of who we are. The version of being romantic, the version of being passionate about your life can expand greatly, and it can expand through technology because our intelligence will be potentially 1,000,000 times more intelligent than it is now.
So next November, when it's all said and done and the dust clears and someone new is elected, if it's not you, what would you want the American people to take away from your candidacy?
Transhumanism believes that all problems can be solved by science and technology. We don't need other moral codes, other philosophical codes, other religious codes, other ethical codes to solve problems. All problems can be solved by science and technology.
Well, my mind is blown a bit. Most of it scares the shit out of me. But the future will happen. And now that I'm going to live until the year 2096, I'm sure I'm going to witness things beyond what even Philip K. Dick could even imagine. Unless, of course, life has a different plan. Thanks for joining me on another episode of The Adventures of Memento Mori. A special thanks to Alex from In Silico Medicine and Zoltan Istvan. Please visit our website, remembertodie.com, to find out more about the work these folks do. I'm D.S. Moss, back in 2 weeks for the next episode with more Adventures of Memento Mori.
The episode was produced by Josh Heilbrenner, D.S. Moss, and Hannah Beale. Theme music composed by Mikey Ballou. This has been a production of the Maida Creative Company. Until next time, keep seeking.